This is the Authority Company Podcast, conversations with leaders who are designing the future. Hola, I'm Joe Pardavila, and my guest today leads one of the most successful financial advisory firms in the Northwestern Mutual network. John William Wright II is the managing partner of Goodwin Wright, where he focuses on recruiting, mentoring, and developing financial advisors who build lasting careers. In his new book, Recruiting to Retain, a principle-centered strategy to win the war for talent, he shares the leadership principles and recruiting process he used to build a high retention firm and develop advisors for long-term success. John, welcome to the podcast. How are you, sir?
Glad to be with you, Joe.
You've been doing this for a long time, 30 plus years. And in the book, you talk about how recruiting has always been part of your life since childhood, which begs to ask, John, what kind of childhood did you have, John, if you're recruiting at that age?
Well, I guess recruiting is a loose term then. But I did grow up, putting the games together in my neighborhood. This was, the days where you had a rotary phone. And I can remember on the playground, I was always recruiting people to different games we were going to play. And then when I was a student athlete at the University of Illinois, I wasn't a highly recruited five-star recruit. That said, I was very involved in hosting a lot of our best five-star candidates and helping them get clarity on whether the University of Illinois might be the place where they wanted to play football and be a part of the Illini, the Fighting Illini community. So it has really always been in my blood, if you will, the thought of being around talent, recruiting talent, and really, I guess it most formally started in college as a student athlete.
So let's connect the dots a little bit here, John, because I think it's one of those things where if I went back in time and while you were putting your games together as a child, if I asked you, hey, what do you want to do for a living? You probably were going to mention recruiter. So tell me how you take this passion of connecting people and making it into a career.
No, what I really wanted to do in my lifelong dream was to just sell life insurance right out of college. So that's a not. I'm kidding. So, I don't think anybody comes out of college thinking, okay, I'm gonna be in the life insurance business, and I can't wait to call on all my friends and family and help them talk about dying too soon or becoming hurt, sick, or disabled, or living too long. Those are great subjects that everybody wants to talk about at the Thanksgiving meal. And the same would be true for recruiting. Again, if I want to stop a conversation, I know how to do that very quickly. I can just say I'm in the life insurance business or I'm a recruiter, and the conversation, as you know, is over because people don't want to talk about that. But the reality is, I have made it my life's work, especially the last 20 years since I have been the managing partner, CEO of the Northwestern Mutual Goodwin Wright here in Greater Georgia. And I think, one of the quotes in the book quotes the great Stephen Covey and says, again, if you were doing it over again as a leader, as an executive leader, as a person that teaches leadership, teaches culture, wrote a book that's up there with some of the all-time greats in the 7 Habits. He said, I would have been more intentional with the selection, acquisition, and development of talent. So when you have a leader of his stature says, get in the talent game, certainly when you look at what's happened in the athletic world, and let's just go to Division I football and basketball, and what's happening in our colleges now. I mean, recruiting it's so important. And I mentioned this also in the book when one of my good friends, all of his sons, played collegiate and professional basketball, and I got invited to go watch one of his sons play in the Peach Jam in, Augusta, Georgia, in a high school gym. Well, who's there? Every Division I coach in America is in that high school gym, not their recruiter, not the assistant coach, the head coach. And they're in that gym watching the best AAU talent in high school play basketball so they could come and play at Kansas or Duke or Illinois but they're all there. And I think for the leader and the leaders of firms to be even more intentional, more involved in the acquisition of talent is really one of the premises of the book.
And one of the main premises of the book is retention. And, there's that old line that says, start with the end in mind, right? And
Sure.
So you kind of borrow that and shift it into, you should start at retention. The idea of just getting people to the door is hard enough. but then with the idea of keep retaining them. How do you put that into this mixture that you're putting together?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think when I'm sharing in a seminar facility, in a seminar capacity, or talking to people that do what I do, other managing partners, other people in the financial services world, what I would say the starting point for us, given the way our profession is designed, is what's right for the candidate. The reality is, Joe, most people are not right for a business like ours. So let's just start with this. 50% of the population rather work with things than people. So already, our business is people business. If you don't love people, if you don't want to be interacting with people day in, day out, and by the way, dealing with all of the quirks and craziness and difficulty of dealing with people, you shouldn't be in our business. So there's 50% of the world that should not be in our profession. And then you go into the type of young man or woman, high-end career changer, whatever it may be, that fits our business is a unique individual. Most people don't want to be self-employed. Most people want to get out of college and go get a job and have a salary and benefits and be a part of, get paid for the time and effort they do. That's not our business model. So entering the dialogue, entering the conversation with that mindset, it helps with retention. We're not trying to sell this career, or certainly oversell it in a quick fashion. We're trying to find a fit. We're trying to find a mutual fit. So what's the best way to do that? Well, first and foremost, you got to see a lot of people. You got to have a lot of times people will say to me, well, hey, if I'm going to come in and do your model, I don't want to do a lot of activity, do I? No. You want to do more activity. Our business model involves more activity. Great selection means choice. Great selection equals choice. And you can't choose a great new financial representative if you're not looking at a lot of different people for the career. So we're at a point where we really know the kinds of individual that fit us. Now, one of the things you wouldn't think, when I got to our firm in 2005, Joe, we had 54 financial advisors. 14 of them were Georgia Tech engineers. So you would think, wait a second, Georgia Tech engineer, that's a super hard school to get into. It's engineering. Wait, aren't engineers nerd and don't want to work with people? That's not true. A lot of engineers love working with people, but they have found the discipline. They could buy into a system. They got through Georgia Tech, which says a lot to start with, and then they loved our business model. So it's interesting. You wouldn't think engineer. Wait a second, that's financial services and sales. It actually is.
Wow, that's funny. And so, if I were to ask you to put together a pie, because you are describing a very people first kind of
Yes.
job, how much of that pie is soft skills, and how much of that pie is hard skills? Because when you mentioned engineers, the engineer pie, it's a lot of the hard skills, not a lot of the soft skills. So tell me, how do you see it if you were to break down in terms of like the people you think work best in that framework? Is it 60-40 soft? Is it 50-50? Tell me about what you think about a perfect person would be a candidate here.
Well, the perfect person would have both. But I would tell you, Joe, if I were just thinking back over the years, I think in our profession, it's actually the hard skills that matter most, because there's no way to make it in our business early without you got to see a lot of people. So having that super high EQ, having that ability to relate to all people and listen at a deep level, I would say that's tertiary in the early years of making it. You got to get out there. You got to be talking to people. Now, in an ideal world, once you've made it, gosh, to work with the ultra high net worth, you're not going to work with them at the highest level without a lot of these soft skills. A lot of, they've got the ability to choose anyone in the world they want to work with. So I think going to the next level, I tell a new financial representative there's three capacities in our business. There's the candidate or the new rep's capacity for work. So our business is exposure. How much are you going to work? I'm constantly selling work. Secondly, is their capacity, to your point, the hard skills in front of the client. So how good a communicator are they? How much do they know about tax law? How much do they really understand the products and services that they can connect to the candidate? But the ultimate X factor that every advisor is striving for is what's the capacity of the prospect. Once you become a great advisor, the difference in serving a family that, let's say, makes $1 million and has $5 million under assets versus a family that makes $5 million and has $50 million under it's the same work. But how do you get in front of that higher net worth person? That's a lot of the art that you're talking about in that soft skill space, in your ability to build a team. So they go together, but early it's the hard skills. That'd be my opinion.
Okay. All right. So something I didn't realize until I read your book was the idea that in this financial service industry historically has struggled with retention. Why do you think? Is it a structural issue? Is it the point? Is it a developmental issue? Why do you think the industry in itself has struggled with this for so long and so hard?
I think there's, first of all, the fact that the industry doesn't make the barriers to entry high creates low retention. So, obviously, you can fail as a doctor, you can fail as an attorney, you can fail as a priest, but what you have to do to get to that place to be a doctor takes years, takes a vision, takes thoughts, takes sacrifice. You can study, if you're really smart, you can study for a long weekend, pass an insurance exam, and be licensed to sell one of the most sophisticated financial products anywhere that happens to also be, depending on how it's designed, very highly commissioned. So that allure to, oh gosh, I could make a lot of money and not have to work that hard. So that's a lie. You are going to have to work hard, but you're thinking, the industry's telling you, oh, you could come in, you could be great. You just have to get a few licenses and you can help. It's much, much more difficult than that. And yet that happens pervasively in our profession.
Yeah, in the book, you talk about the fact that, and you kind of described it there, is like a lot of companies are overselling. So
Oh,
tell me, what's the antidote to that? How can you sell someone about the opportunities they would have for joining a firm without it coming across as overselling? You mentioned the fact, oh, you don't have to work, all these hours and stuff like that. What's a good way to sell that?
well, the best way to not oversell is to do meaningful feeling fact finding on the front end of your candidate. Who are you working with potentially? So if I'm sitting in front of a former student athlete, let's say they were an all-American, academic all-American student athlete in college. So they've already gotten to the 1% club in that area of their life. And then I meet him at 28 years old and their career disturbance is really high. They've been working in a job for 6 years. And in that 6th year, they're feeling like, gosh, this is the third time that I was promised this and it didn't happen. So their career disturbed. So I've got these two facts, 1% club level in their former wife, high vocational disturbance. I've got a really good starting point to possibly help them. So I'm not going to need to oversell our career opportunity for someone that says, I know the cost of a paycheck. I've been in a job for 6 years. I don't want to be in a job anymore. I want to work for myself. I want to be self-employed. I don't want to be told that I have to work an extra weekend and be paid the same amount of the person that doesn't have to do that and then be bypassed for a promotion. I want to put in hard work now so I have more control over my schedule later. And that's the magic of our career opportunity. The reason people get attracted to our career opportunities, especially at Northwestern Mutual, John Wright, is that ability to build something that's yours, that ability to do it not independently, but interdependently, and then to have work that matters so much, noble work, coupled with the ability to control your schedule. The ability to decide almost everything you do professionally. I think these big jobs in the C-suite, corporate jobs, the Fortune 100 jobs that everybody wants, The challenge with those jobs is at their pinnacle, when you've made the C-suite at maybe 40, maybe 50 years old, you're have never been in less control of your life professionally, and you could be overnight another 08-09 happens. I've never met more successful people unemployed during those years. I was a managing partner in 08, 09, and 10, and I can't tell you the number of C-suite people that just overnight lost their job. And that's sobering. Our business model, no one left our firm in 08, 9, and 10. Not one person. So, meaning not one career advisor. I'm not saying a new rep. We still had new reps that failed, but nobody that was in the career left the career. No one that was employed at Goodwin Wright left Goodwin Wright.
Wow. That's a pretty good track record. I mean, that makes you appealing, obviously. And so let's talk about that. How do you make it appealing by almost like osmosis? Like where people, you don't even have to do the hard sell. You don't have to BS them because you've built a brand there that's strong. But how do you show that without it being like wearing the Flavor Flav clock around your neck saying how good you are? Like, tell me how you can do that without it part of that oversell.
Well, first of all, and you know this. I mean, you interview a lot of really talented people, sharp people, and the the A+ candidate, the 1% club type of member we're looking for, they'll see through that. They they know. I mean, again, I'm not saying you can't get snowed, but great candidates get repelled by being oversold on something. They're not interested in that. They've been around the block. So yes, you can oversell a 22-year-old that's unemployed, that's just looking to get a job. But we're mainly looking to attract a high-end career changer. When I think of the John Fays of the world that we attracted, again, construction engineer, 29 years old, Georgia Tech grad, making 150 grand, leaves his job to join us. Tom Weidman reinvents after professional basketball. And so the different, Wes Spiro after being on the leadership track of Price Waterhouse. These people left very significant jobs and pathways to build their own business with us. And I'm just telling you, when you have the right candidate, Joe, I'm not saying there's no selling. Obviously, there's a selling aspect to it, but they get it.
That's great. All right, so I can't let you go without talking about culture because it sounds like these people are very independent in their roles of what they do, but there is still sort of a culture. So tell me how the culture plays in a role of being these sort of like independent operators.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest paradox, the biggest challenge that Northwestern Mutual itself is going through right now. It is a very independent business model, and yet it has interdependencies. We regularly refer to the great Northwestern Mutual as an ecosystem, and that ecosystem, I don't think, has ever been more challenged. So the culture of those individual offices like Goodwin Wright, which we refer to regularly as our Goodwin Wright community, the culture, the connectivity, what people do feel in connection to that, because our advisors could go do their work anywhere they want. Once you get established with Northwestern Mutual, and obviously we have companies that their whole target market are our career advisors and bringing them in. We rarely do that. Most of our work is organic growth. And I think when you grow organically and you grow through referral, our work is a flywheel, Joe, where our best advisors come from our best advisors. Almost all of the people that I've met with over the last 20 years that are a part of our culture today, I met through the advisor before them. They connected me to them because they know how strong our culture is. The challenge with culture is it's so hard to truly talk about on the front end. Back to, how do you sell culture? It's hard to sell it. So what we want people to experience during the set of experiences that they have with us is culture by experience, not culture by talking about it. I mean, obviously we have all the things that every company has. We have a mission, we have a vision, we have values, just like
You got
everybody.
posters.
Yeah, we have posters, we have pictures, we have all that stuff in a PowerPoint. the great ones are looking to feel that day in, day out. And we work on that all the time.
That's great. Your firm achieved unusually strong career retention compared with industry averages. Without, I mean, you write about it in the book, but without spilling company secrets, what habits made that possible? Like, what were you doing that other people were not? Obviously, on the front end, you're bringing in the right people, but like, how do you make that so they stay and it's just like it's a habit. It's not like you're doing anything
Yeah.
intentional. It's sort of baked into what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that is where the magic is. The thing is, it's not a secret. I mean, I wouldn't have written a book about it if I thought it really was a trade secret.
Right.
I want people. I mean, the book was dedicated and written to, as you know, to Northwestern Mutual, to my colleagues in the Northwestern Mutual. I mean, I owe Northwestern Mutual so much. My family's been working with them. My father was a Northwestern Mutual managing partner. My nephew's with Northwestern Mutual. My sister has worked with Northwestern Mutual. So we have a real affinity, a connection to Northwestern Mutual. But the book was also written to the profession of financial services. I want other financial services CEO leaders, people that are doing recruiting and development, to do it better, to do it right. And our model is not magical in that, well, only Johnny Wright can do this, or only Bill Goodwin can do this. And sometimes people say that. That's Johnny Wright. That's Bill Goodwin. That you can't do that. And I'm just telling you, Joe, I don't believe that, or I wouldn't have written this book. I believe that the things that we're doing, many of the things that we're doing, are transferable to any field management leader that's in the world of recruiting development. I think you can learn the different principles. You can learn a mindset that focuses the end game on retention.
Hmm. It makes me wonder as I was reading this book and talking to you today, John, is like, why do this? Because the fact that you are talking about what you do at Northwestern Mutual Goodwin, but why why are you not afraid for other
Be-
competitors or
Well,
people to do
because
what you're
because
doing?
this is the thing I love about the country we live in. I love about where we are. Bettering our profession is good for the profession. Our competitors being better. The worst thing that could happen to our profession, Joe, is there's not enough people in the profession. What happens then? Then the profession's gone. We need stronger, broader. Our profession needs a lot more professionals in it. So we can serve Greater Georgia and the United States of America. You know, we could 3x our market share with just Northwestern Mutual, and won't have any effect on other companies doing well too. I mean, Northwestern Mutual, Joe, is as successful as they are, as well as they're known in the financial world, not necessarily known outside of that world all the time. They have 5 million policyholders. They're not global. That's not that many when you really think about it. A 330 million in just the United States. That's our market. So we've got lots of work to do in our profession, and our profession being better, our profession being more admired, our profession being better, not just in Northwestern Mutual, but the other great companies out there, is good for the profession.
All right, so it sounds like you come from a great place, very altruistic. But be honest with you, were there anyone in that office, John, be like, "Hey, John, maybe don't write this book. Maybe don't tell people about all the good things we do here." Did you get any pushback from anybody
You
about
know
putting
what?
this out?
None. No, I
Okay.
really. Well, here's the reason too. What we do is harder. What we do takes more courage. I'm not just saying that it's a layup, that anybody can just do it. And if somebody is willing to find that mindset, someone's willing to have the courage, the values-based courage it takes, and stick to that, I, I welcome them, utilizing this, because you talk about creating something special. When you go into this mindset, you get to build something remarkable.
Awesome. All right, lastly, if leaders reading this book remember one idea about recruiting and developing people, what should it be?
If you really want to be in the world of recruiting and development, fall in love and stay in love with the miracle of human development. So fall in love with it, so that there's something in you, but then stay in love, the love being the verb, love being the willing self-sacrifice for the spiritual well-being of another person. Stay connected to that miracle. I think, 30, 36 years later, I started in 1990 with Northwestern Mutual. 36 years later, I still am so connected to and impassioned by the miracle of human development. I love being a part of that. And our business model and recruiting and developing and keeping people lets you do that in spades.
Awesome. The name of the book is Recruiting to Retain, a principle-centered strategy to win the war for talent. His name is John William Wright II. John, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Love being here, Joe. Great questions and wonderful energy. Appreciate you.
And that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to find out more information about John and our other amazing authors, go to theauthoritycompany.com.